Hi! Warcraft 3 isn't just a strategy game. It's heroes leveling up, powerful artifacts, tight micromanagement, intense fights for map control, and that one moment when a single ultimate ability decides the entire battle. Even years later, very few RTS games have managed to recreate that feeling. But if you've been missing those days, here's the good news. There are games that come surprisingly close to that formula. In this video, I'll show you RTS titles that feel as close as possible to Warcraft 3, in spirit, in pacing, and in gameplay. Let's start with SpellForce 3 Reforced. This is one of those rare cases where strategy and RPG truly function as one cohesive system. You control a full party of heroes with skills, gear, and progression, and then seamlessly shift into classic RTS gameplay with base building, resources, and large-scale armies. The campaign is where the game really shines. Missions are varied, the heroes feel important, and their development directly shapes how you approach each battle. Visually, it feels modern. Detailed environments, large-scale sieges, and flashy magic effects make every fight look impressive. That said, the RTS side is intentionally streamlined compared to competitive strategy games. The economy and micromanagement don't demand the same level of precision you'd find in hardcore esports titles, and the main focus is clearly on the heroes and their abilities. Warhammer: Dawn of War. This is one of those RTS games built around aggressive map control. Resources come from strategic points on the map, and without constant pressure, you simply won't hold them. That creates a fast-paced flow. Instead of slowly turtling and building up your base, you're forced to push out, take strong positions, and dictate the fight. The factions feel radically different. Space Marines rely on elite squads, Orcs overwhelm with numbers and brute force, and Eldar focus on mobility and precision strikes. That contrast is often considered the game's greatest strength. The original game and its expansions, like Dark Crusade, are still remembered as standout examples of intense, tactical RTS design. The series sparked plenty of debate over which entries are best, but Dawn of War's legacy remains clear. It's a strategy game packed with meaningful tactical decisions, strict map control, and battles that demand both attention and smart decision-making. Battle Realms: Zen Edition stands out thanks to its Eastern-inspired fantasy setting and its unique approach to army development. The core gameplay revolves around peasants, who are trained in different dojos and transformed into specialized combat classes. It feels less like recruiting units and more like raising and shaping your army. The path you choose for each warrior directly affects your faction's overall playstyle, and smart combinations of training paths and upgrades are key to victory. Beneath its apparent simplicity lies thoughtful tactical depth. Capturing horses to boost mobility, managing morale systems, and navigating a deep upgrade tree all force you to constantly adapt to what's happening on the map. The campaign may feel linear at times, but the flexibility in unit development and the variety of factions make every match feel different. Zen Edition ultimately feels like a respectful revival of a classic RTS, preserving its identity and strategic depth. Armies of Exigo. Armies of Exigo is a classic early 2000s RTS built on a familiar formula: 3 fantasy factions, resource gathering, steady base progression, and large-scale battles. The game intentionally leans into old-school design, clear economic systems, structured tech trees, and straightforward upgrades. One of its defining features is the split between surface and underground combat, adding an extra strategic layer and forcing you to divide your forces carefully. The community often sees it as a loving tribute to classic RTS design. Battles are fast-paced, armies are massive, and the interface remains intuitive even today. At the same time, the lack of bold innovation makes it feel more nostalgic than revolutionary. Armies of Exigo is appreciated for its honest, old-school structure and that unmistakable classic RTS atmosphere where solid economy and well-timed attacks make all the difference. Warlords: Battlecry 3 is one of the most hero-focused RTS games of its era. At the center of everything is your character, complete with a class, skill tree, and inventory, who progresses between missions and gradually becomes the key force on the battlefield. Dozens of races, multiple classes, and countless build combinations allow for completely different playstyles, from destructive spellcasters to commanders who empower entire armies with passive bonuses. That sheer variety makes the game incredibly replayable. The campaign structure feels like a chain of individual battles, where micromanagement and hero abilities often matter more than deep economic play. The game is technically dated and a bit rough around the edges, but the richness of its mechanics and the diversity of its fantasy factions keep it engaging. Warlords Battlecry may feel old school and even archaic at times, but it's an ambitious RTS where the RPG system isn't an add-on, it's the foundation of the entire strategy. The Lord of the Rings, The Battle for Middle-earth 2. This is a large-scale fantasy RTS set in Tolkien's universe, where each faction has unique units, heroes, and tactics, and massive armies clash in epic battles. Players often remember it as one of the best classic RTS games set in Middle-earth. The ability to build bases almost anywhere on the map, the variety of units, and the strong fantasy atmosphere create a real sense of fighting a full-scale war for territory. The major battles between orcs, elves, and other armies are exactly what Warcraft 3 fans love. Large forces, powerful heroes with active abilities, and the need to balance economy with smart tactical decisions on the battlefield. Because of that, Battle for Middle-earth 2 remains a cult classic fantasy RTS that people still look back on fondly decades later. Age of Mythology Retold. This is a classic RTS with a mythological twist, where battles unfold between human armies, legendary creatures, and even the gods of ancient cultures. The remaster preserves the balance between strategy and epic spectacle. Base building, resource gathering, and summoning mythological units remain at the heart of the gameplay. At the same time, the visual overhaul and updated interface make Retold approachable even for RTS newcomers. Fans of the original often point out that the atmosphere of Greek, Egyptian, and Norse battles with centaurs, cyclopes, and divine powers is still incredibly engaging. The remaster stays true to the spirit of the classic while making it more accessible. Unit commands feel clearer, and micromanagement is slightly more forgiving, which works well for both longtime veterans and players experiencing a serious RTS for the first time. Godsworn is a classic fantasy RTS inspired by old-school strategy games, where you take on the role of a divine hero, build your army, and fight for dominance over northern lands. The game features multiple godlike heroes with unique abilities and a faith system that acts as a resource for summoning mythological creatures and empowering your troops. Early access feedback shows that Godsworn genuinely tries to capture the spirit of traditional RTS design, with base building, resource gathering, and a strong emphasis on unit combinations. It's hard not to appreciate the atmosphere and the concept of divine heroes blending mythology with classic RTS combat. That combination makes Godsworn especially interesting for players looking for a modern take on hero-driven strategy games. Heroes of Annihilated Empires. This is an ambitious attempt to combine large-scale RTS gameplay with a fully developed hero system. From the developers of Stalker, the game thrives on contrast. On one side, you have base building, economy, and map control. On the other, a hero with progression, inventory, and powerful spells capable of turning the tide of battle alone. Hundreds of units can clash on screen at once, and magic and special abilities turn fights into spectacular chaos where both positioning and character development matter. The interface and technical side feel dated today, and some RPG elements are a bit rough around the edges. Still, the depth of hero builds, the variety of races, and the blend of direct character control with army management make it stand out among mid-2000s RTS games. For old-school fans, it's not just a hybrid, it's a rare example of an RTS where the hero truly sits at the center of the entire system. Rising Kingdoms revolves around three main races and a system of capturing independent nations that act as neutral colonies. Controlling these settlements unlocks unique units and abilities, adding real variety to every match. Instead of simply building up one linear army, you have to consider which neutrals are available on the map and how their bonuses can reshape your strategy, making games more flexible and less predictable. At the same time, it follows the classic early 2000s RTS formula: resource gathering, upgrades, and gradually transitioning into late-game power units. The community notes that balance isn't always perfect, and some heroes or abilities can feel overtuned. Still, that old-school structure and clear pacing make Rising Kingdoms a solid pick for fans of classic fantasy strategy games. Dragonshard is one of those mid-2000s RTS games that tried to expand the traditional formula by adding strong RPG elements. You control heroes with active abilities and progression while also building your base and fighting for territory. The feature fans remember most is the dual-layer map system. The surface and the underground exist simultaneously, and battles happen on both levels. That forces you to split your forces differently and constantly watch for threats coming from below. The factions feel genuinely distinct, both in army composition and pacing. Heroes can dramatically shift the outcome of a fight with their spells and unique abilities, and smart combinations of units and powers create a real advantage. Yes, visually it shows its age, but the tactical depth, map control, and unconventional structure still make Dragonshard appealing to anyone looking for an RTS with a strong hero focus and a more unusual strategic design. The Scouring quickly caught the attention of classic RTS fans even during early access. The game deliberately builds on the foundations of the genre. Base building follows clear logic, resources have to be contested aggressively, and the map constantly pushes players into conflict. Matches move at a fast pace. Without applying pressure or fighting for control points, you can't just sit back and turtle. Players also praise the battlefield clarity and responsive controls. Units react quickly, and fights feel tight and readable without unnecessary visual clutter. That said, the game still lacks scale. There aren't many factions or units yet, and the overall content feels limited. But even now, players highlight strong ideas like nighttime neutral attacks that force you to account for the time of day, and a potion system that adds tactical flexibility to your army. The map editor is also seen as a big positive, especially for fans of old-school RTS games who value long-term replayability. StarCraft II has long been regarded as one of the most polished and demanding RTS games of its time. Even with its sci-fi setting, it's often compared to Warcraft 3 in terms of pacing and the importance of key units. Timing, positioning, and micromanagement are everything. A well-executed blink, a perfect army split, or a well-timed drop can completely turn the tide of battle. The campaign received particular praise for mission variety. Almost every chapter introduces a new mechanic or twist, so it feels less like a series of standard maps and more like a collection of unique scenarios. The co-op mode is also worth highlighting. Commanders function almost like heroes, each with their own active abilities, unique armies, and distinct playstyles. Every commander changes the way you approach the game. Some focus on economy and overwhelming numbers, others rely on elite units and powerful abilities. And the arcade mode still serves as a hub for custom game types, keeping the community creativity alive. Tempest Rising is a modern RTS that intentionally brings the genre back to the 2000s formula. Resource gathering, aggressive map control, clearly defined faction differences, and fast tactical decisions. Matches move at a high tempo, and positioning matters a lot. Early skirmishes over key points and smart trades can define the entire rhythm of the game. Each faction feels distinct, and every army demands its own approach to micro and timing. While it doesn't feature a strong RPG-style hero system, Tempest Rising is appreciated for its tight combat, straightforward economy, and the feeling of pure strategy without unnecessary complexity. It's a case where classic design meets modern visuals and smooth controls. For fans of old-school RTS, it's not about reinventing the genre, it's about confidently returning to its strengths. Northgard. Northgard takes the classic RTS formula and places it in a Norse setting. while keeping the core elements that Warcraft 3 fans appreciate: map control, clear faction asymmetry, and meaningful strategic decisions. Each clan comes with unique bonuses and playstyles, forcing you to adapt your tactics from match to match. Expanding and controlling territory matters more than endlessly spamming units. Without proper zone and resource management, you won't win. The pacing is slower, but the strategic depth is strong. The economy, surviving harsh winters, and military pressure are tightly connected. It's not a hero-focused RTS in the traditional sense, but in terms of map control and the weight of each decision, Northgard appeals to players who prefer thoughtful strategy over chaotic rushing. Warhammer Mark of Chaos is a fantasy strategy game centered on large-scale army clashes and the crucial role of commanders. Unlike traditional economy-heavy RTS games, it focuses less on base building and more on tactical control of units. Heroes and special units have a significant impact on battles, and magic can completely shift the balance of power on the field. The community often remembers the game for its strong Warhammer atmosphere and cinematic battles, where proper formation management and well-timed abilities are key. Despite its age, Mark of Chaos remains an interesting option for players looking for a fantasy RTS experience with a strong tactical emphasis. Majesty 2 is an unusual fantasy RTS where heroes act autonomously, and you control them indirectly through rewards and commands. Instead of directly managing your army, you build your kingdom, recruit characters of different classes, and motivate them to complete tasks. Hero development and equipment become the core of the entire strategy. Without strong characters, your kingdom simply won't withstand enemy pressure. This approach creates a unique sense of a living world. Heroes choose their own targets, explore the map, and react to threats on their own. It's not a traditional micro-heavy RTS, but in terms of fantasy atmosphere, character progression, and the importance of heroes, Majesty 2 really resonates with players who value the hero-driven side of strategy games. Iron Harvest brings the classic RTS formula into an alternate history Europe filled with Dieselpunk mechs. It features heroes with active abilities, asymmetric factions, and a strong focus on positional combat. Controlling cover, using commanders effectively, and executing precise attacks are crucial. Every skirmish feels impactful and demands careful unit management. The campaign is often praised for its presentation and atmosphere, while the battles themselves stand out for their tactical depth. Even without a heavy RPG system, the influence of heroes and faction traits creates a sense of personalized strategy, where not just the army, but individual characters can shape the outcome of a fight. Age of Darkness: Final Stand is a dark fantasy RTS where survival and heroes play a central role. You manage a fortress, defend against massive enemy waves, and rely on unique characters with active abilities. Heroes here are far from decorative. Without their skills and proper positioning, your defenses will quickly collapse. Nighttime assaults turn every match into a test of reaction speed and smart resource management. The tense atmosphere and sheer scale of battles stand out. Hundreds of enemies on screen create the feeling of a true siege. Economy and defense are tightly connected, and a single mistake in preparing for the night can cost you the entire base. It's a more hardcore take on the formula, but in terms of heroes leading the fight and constant map pressure, it feels very close to classic RTS experiences. Rise of Nations, Rise of Legends is a fantasy steampunk twist on the classic RTS formula, where heroes and magic blend with traditional economic systems. Unlike the historical foundation of the original series, the factions here differ radically in style. Magical nations, technological empires, and fantastical creatures create strong contrasts in gameplay. Heroes have active abilities and play a noticeable role in large-scale battles. The game is often praised for its faction asymmetry and content-rich campaigns. Map control, city development, and powerful abilities combine to create a strategy that feels both large in scale and personal at the same time. Despite its age, Rise of Legends remains one of the most striking and underrated RTS games of its era. Warcraft 3 remains unique, but the genre hasn't died. It's simply become more diverse. Some games lean into heroes and RPG mechanics, others focus on massive armies, and some try to reinterpret the classics in a modern way. If you're looking for that same intensity, those tense battles, and the feeling that every unit truly matters, you'll definitely find something for yourself among these games. The Image Game Channel was with you. Have a nice day.